Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to an introduction to the compelling Ideate Software suite for BIM managers. My name is Richard Taylor with Ideate Software. I am the technical evangelist here at Ideate Software, and with me is Sash Kazaminajad, who is going to be answering questions on the question panel. I have over 20 years of Revit experience, and I was fortunate enough to be one of the original employees at Revit Technology back about 21 years ago. And then, of course, as everyone knows, Revit Technology was acquired by Autodesk. I worked at Autodesk for about 12 years in various roles, and I was also one of the Revit product managers for about 5 years. And I've worked at various other large software companies like Bentley and Intergraph, and then also worked in large and small architecture firms. So you can always feel free to contact me on LinkedIn. If you want to connect with me, I'm happy to increase my connections. And you can also follow me on Twitter, and you can always contact me with email as well, just richard.taylor@ideatesoftware.com. So Ideate Software is all about simplifying your Revit data challenges. Today, we're going to be looking at 5 applications that are Revit add-ons that will help you to increase your productivity and efficiency. And really, we're all about the data. And so the idea about Ideate Software is reducing laborious data editing, viewing, and management tasks. So, of course, in the course of 60 minutes, I'm not going to be able to show you everything, all the great things about Ideate Software, but hopefully I will whet your appetite, especially for, I think, BIM management and BIM managers, specific tools that are really relevant to your particular workflows. Now, Ideate Software, a little bit about us. We are very proud of our support and our service. So you can always contact, if you've got issues, if you're a current customer, you can contact support@ideatesoftware.com. I'm going to be showing our website in a little bit as well. And so we have lots of online help. We have videos, all kinds of videos, webinars such as this, but we also have short, 2 or 3 minute videos on how to work or use our particular products. We are currently updating on the last 4 releases of Revit, which, and I say this in air quotation marks, currently is 2018 through 2021. I've got a slide here in just a minute about our 2022, or basically our Q2 release that is coming very soon. So we haven't released our updates to 2022 yet, but that will be coming quite soon. And of course, we're very proud of not only our solutions, but also the fact that we deliver a lot of content to get you started. So every one of our solutions has content in the case of like sample files, sample Excel, PDF, and Word files for Sticky. We deliver almost 300 link definitions for Id8 Bim Link that I'm going to be talking about today to get you started. When there are solutions or products that have rules, we're delivering rules. With Ideate Explorer, we have warnings rankings that are included. So not only is the software available, but all this background information to get you started and going very quickly. And then we have customers all around the world. And we do testing and support with those customers in all different countries with large projects. And actually, the different countries is going to be a factor here in the next slide as well. And we have been an Autodesk app developer since 1985, although we've been building solutions on Revit since almost the first API was available in Revit. So our 2 solutions, Id8 Bim Link and Ideate Explorer, are over 10 years. So they've been out there in the industry, proven and worked on, or I should say, used by thousands of people around the world every day. So speaking of, I just wanted to give you kind of a hint as to some of our Q2 improvements. And one of the big things that we're doing is we're delivering in multiple languages, actually 5 plus English. So that's 6 languages. And so for those of you that are very familiar with Ideate Software, you may remember that last fall with our Id8 Style Manager, we introduced Style Manager in French and Japanese and I think Spanish, if I remember right. And so now this is basically building upon that with all of our solutions available in all these different languages. That's going to be, if you're using, let's say, the Japanese version of Revit, you will be able to use the Japanese version of all of our solutions. Also, we're expanding on our cloud networking, which we introduced last year as part of this, the whole pandemic, and the fact that we're still supporting our FlexLM, which is sort of the traditional network license. But typically, a FlexLM would have a server, and then it would serve licenses. And many times, you have to be connected to the VPN in order to grab those licenses. So we introduced this new cloud network where you do not have to have a server, and it's actually going to be sort of activated through this portal that's in the cloud, and it now works on most virtualized environments as well as other remote access technologies. So we're expanding on that. And then, of course, Autodesk is constantly changing and updating BIM 360 or the Autodesk Construction Cloud, and we have a number of improvements around that as well. And then, of course, each one of our 5 solutions has some improvements, but we're going to be making some What's New videos, and we'll have a special presentation that is going to be just focusing on all the new improvements that we have for our Ideate software solutions. So today I want to give you kind of a brief overview of the 5 solutions and how it relates to BIM managers and BIM management. And so I'm going to go through each one of the, actually in this, I said 5 solutions, but it's really 5 plus 1, which you'll see in a minute here with Bim Link automation. So I'm going to talk about each one of these at a very high level, and then I'm going to show you some presentations on that and some workflows. So our first solution from Ideate Software is called Ideate Bim Link. And Ideate Bim Link, as I said, has been around for over 10 years. It is the industry standard when it comes to exporting information from the Revit model, sending it to Excel, being able to change and modify that data, and then importing that data back from Excel to update the model. And sometimes it's just reviewing. You might have a QA, QC process. Other times, you do want to modify the data. So it allows you to edit and change that information very easily. And you'll see here, specifically, again, for BIM managers, many QA, QC, health check links. And I'm going to specifically talk about health check when I show Ideate Bim Link. And then in addition to Ideate Bim Link, last year we introduced Ideate Automation. Well, what is automation? Well, basically, it allows you to script Bim Link and allows you to have it run, for instance, maybe at 2 in the morning. And you can actually have it run on multiple projects or multiple Revit models. So for instance, let's say you're extracting a health check link. You could have that run on 5 different Revit models at 2 in the morning, exporting out the information to an Excel spreadsheet so that the next morning you have that information that you can review. And so things like, not only health checks, but quantity takeoffs, revision information, and so forth. So, we are planning to have some of our other products with this automation. For right now, the only automation that we're offering currently is with Ideate Bim Link, and allowing you, again, to automate some of those processes across multiple models. And of course, if the models that you're working with are on BIM 360, we can support that as well. And then our Ideate Sticky also works with Excel, but it works a little bit differently in the sense that it's able to link Excel data. I'll talk about the others here in a second, but started out with just Excel data, link in information that might be specifications. It may be manufacturing data. And so we can format that and have it be a actual Revit schedule. Well, then we were asked again, maybe I think it was about a couple years ago, well, we'd like to do the same thing. Our customers said for Word and PDF. So we've introduced that as well, where you can link Word and PDF documents into your Revit model, keep them up to date, and display them actually as images, which is really nice. So I'm going to show some examples of that as well. And then our Ideate Explorer is a model browser. It is a fantastic tool for search, find, filter. It's going to show you every single element and instance of that element in your project or in your Revit model, and you're going to be able to quickly find, maybe swap one component to another. You can refine the selection. You can audit your projects. We're going to show you some BIM management auditing tools for finding CAD files. And of course, being able to review warnings and manage those warnings so much easier than you can do in the default tools in Revit. And then we introduced a few years ago our Ideate Style Manager, which takes the sort of auditing to another level within the Revit model, allowing you to review these on what we're calling styles, but in fact, it could be object styles, line styles, text fonts, dimensions, and so forth. There's a whole collection of things that we've sort of grouped together as styles, allowing you to analyze where they're being used in the project, so you know exactly what they're being used for, or if they're even being used. Then you can start to merge these styles together, because what happens is when you copy in maybe data from one project to another, you start getting a lot of styles that maybe don't match your standards, or maybe you even bring in family content. And then all of a sudden, you've got a lot of these styles or even materials that don't match standards. And so this is a great way for you to review the information and not just, sort of delete and not understand the consequences. You know exactly what you're doing, because it's going to tell you if this particular style or material is being used within the project. So that's our Ideate Style Manager. And then finally, we have a collection of tools for all Revit users. It doesn't matter if you are, an engineer, a structural engineer, mechanical, electrical, plumbing engineer, or architect. These tools offer value for every Revit user, allowing you to renumber elements very easily, allowing you to find hidden elements. There are over 50 different ways an element can be hidden in Revit, and this is going to help you understand why it's not displaying in a particular view. You can check your spelling of the entire project, all open sheets and views. You can check spelling across schedules, which is so important. So it's a much more robust spell check engine than the tools that are delivered in default Revit. And then I'm also going to talk about today, we're going to concentrate on a lot of great sheet and view tools, allowing you to really manage your sheets and views, copy sheets very easily with viewports. That's something you just can't do in Revit, and be able to create views very easily by selecting the views with these particular rules and applying the properties actually before you create the view itself. So with that, I think I've done enough the PowerPoint presentation. So I'm going to switch over here to Revit. And today I'm using Revit 2021. This is what's commercially available on our website for all these applications. But as I said, we're going to be updating to 2022 fairly soon. And also, just because I'm using 2021 doesn't mean it's not available in the other 3 versions of Revit. So 19, 20, actually 18, 19, 20, and 21. Everything that you see me showing today are available on those releases as well. And we have software that is going back further versions, even Id8 Bim Link to 2014. However, we're not updating on that, right? That's an archived version that's available to you that you can download from our website. But it is basically an archived sort of static version of it. So you'll notice that all of the Ideate software applications are available once you install any one of them through the Ideate software ribbon panel. So you select on Ideate software and you'll see all of the applications. And where, the sort of the first 4 here, Bim Link, Explorer, Sticky, and Style Manager, and then you'll see that there's a line here, and then everything to the right are the Ideate Apps tools. So when you install Ideate Apps, you get this collection of 9 tools. So the first thing I thought I'd like to show, especially when it comes to like BIM managers and BIM management, how important this is to look at Ideate Bim Link. And you'll see that if there are any predefined links or already links within the project, it's going to show that. And a link is like a sort of like a schedule, right? It's the properties that you would like to export out to Excel. So when I look at the properties here, this HC Ideate is a delivered library link. We're going to talk about that in a moment here. But it allows me to look at the properties. And so what we have is, project information, we have category, we have mark, the family name, and you can see the preview down below of the information that's going to be exported to Excel. Now, when I go over to the tab here for categories, right now, just to keep things a little bit simple, I've only got casework and doors. So what I'm going to do is look at other categories here. So this is a true multi-category availability to export this information out. So I could say, well, you know what? Let's look at floors. All right. And so I'm going to select on floors, and let's also look at walls as an example. So now if I say, well, you know what? Let's clear that. Right now, I'm going to be exporting out casework, doors, floors, and walls. And for right now, maybe that's good. You can also see that I can filter this information by a particular property. I can sort it by a particular property, like in this case, by the work set, the category. So a lot of control. And when it comes to like the filters, I have the ability to have both an AND filter as well as an OR filter. So really robust in able to extract this information. So again, I look at the properties, and I'm going to say, okay, this is good. Now I'm going to take that link and I'm going to export it. And I have an Excel file here called the Ideate Health Check. And this file, this Excel file, is delivered as part of our sample information. So if you install Id8 Bim Link, even in the trial mode, you should have this Ideate Health Check folder, or actually check Excel file under the Ideate Health Check folder. So I'm going to go ahead and save. So at this point, it is writing out that information. So it asks, hey, there's already a worksheet there called HC Ideate, and I want to overwrite that information. Now, in many cases, as soon as I'm exporting this information, I would like to open the file, but I'm not going to do that yet. Right? So once this is done, I'm just going to say, okay, good. Now, how did I get this HC Ideate? Well, I went over here to New, and here, over here, look at our libraries, right? And so I can say, wow, look at, there's all these folders, right? And they're organized by, MEP links, electrical links. I'm going to come down here. I can even expand this, and I'm going to go down to my health check, right? And so here's where we've put a sort of a prefix, basically saying, HC dimensions, grids, and so forth. There was the Ideate that we just did. I'm going to go down here to views, right? And I'm going to select on that. Hang on for a second. And I'm going to say the views and say next. And so here's the information that's going to be exported out about all of the views. And again, I can completely customize this. I can add other parameters that might be project parameters or shared parameters. But in this case, I'm just going to keep what is the default for this particular link and say done. And I'm going to export it. And I'm going to choose the exact same spreadsheet, because we can have multiple tabs. You can have as many as you want. And so it's not going to overwrite that, the data that I already wrote out to it, which we'll see in a moment. I'm going to hit save, right? And it says, well, you've already got a worksheet called views. So I'm going to say, okay, great. And so now I'm exporting out that particular tab or worksheet. And this time, once it's done, I actually will say open the file. So now we're going to look at the Excel file. And right away, you'll notice that there are lots of tabs along the bottom. So there's what I just exported was this HC views. So this is kind of like we'll call it the raw export from Ideate Bim Link. Then there was the HC Ideate, right, which has all of the information that I sent out with the first extraction that I did. Then if we move over our tabs, there's a whole series of summary tabs. And this is what we're using pivot tables and basically summarizing the information. So you see here, I told it to export out casework, doors, floors, and walls. And so it's giving me a summary of the actual count of those individual items, right? and it's telling me a little bit about the project. And you'll see here, there's a view summary that was, how many different views: architectural, coordination, electrical. You'll see, if there was work set and phasing information, if there was imports and links, are there in-place families? All of this is summary information that is summarized, as you see over here, by a pivot table. But the raw data itself, if I export out all this or move over, everything that you see starting with an HC is coming directly from Bim Link, and then we're modifying or manipulating the data. So that is just a key thing to remember with Ideate Bim Link, is you can export out the information to Excel, and then you can start to manipulate and modify that data in any way that you like to see it. And it could be a pivot table, it could be an Excel macro. We have some other examples where we're using macros to, again, manipulate the data. So I'm going to come back over here to the views just to show you that you can edit some of this information. So let's go to HC views here. And we've got a floor plan, right? And I'm going to come over here. We've got, actually, this is the view name and the title on sheet. So in this case, I'm going to say, it's got a little formula here. We're going to say, I'm going to add RT, my initials, and then ampersand, and that is going to be D351 is the cell name. So I'm going to take that little formula and I'm going to say, you know what, apply it to everything here. So I'm going to bring that down to just the floor plans for right now, just to show you this. And let me see that. We'll just go there to the enlarged toilet plans. Now I'm going to take that information and I'm going to copy it and paste the values over here. Right? So I paste the values in here to the actual view name. So we have the view name and we have the title on sheet. I'm going to say save. And so in this case, initially I was just showing you how you could extract information and, basically review that information with pivot tables or manipulate the data. In this case, maybe I just want to make some modifications, right? So notice over here, the floor plans, all of the names, I want to sort of standardize that with that RT at the beginning of the view name. So we're going to import, and I'm going to pick that Ideate Health Check. And it knows that, well, because there are multiple things that I exported out, I can either select HC Ideate, because those are the ones that I have here, or HC Views. What I want is views, so I'm going to say OK. So it's only going to sort of modify the information from that tab, which was HC Views. And it gives me a little preview. And this is, again, one of the things that's so important about our applications as opposed to other maybe third-party or even Dynamo applications, is that we're really reviewing the information. We're giving you the data to say, okay, this is what's going to happen, right? And you notice it says 0 errors. If there was an element that was locked for work sharing, if it was a read-only element, you're going to get a warning message where you can review that and maybe decide that you want to change it or fix it. So all of this is basically giving me information before I hit the import of what is going to happen. And so I can make intelligent decisions as a BIM manager and say, okay, this is what I want to do. So I say import, and watch over here to the right or to the left. Get my right and left mixed up. Notice all of the floor plans immediately changed with the prefix of RT. So in just a couple seconds, I was able to rename everything. And of course, all the titles on sheets are going to be renamed as well. And there are just so many examples with Ideate Bim Link where you can manipulate the data so quickly and so easily. But I just wanted to show a couple examples of some of the BIM management type of things with the health checks. Now, also, I'm going to go over here to select new. And I just want to show you, if I come over to the top level here and type in the word revisions, you'll notice that we have revisions on sheets, revisions, the sequences. So I'm going to go ahead and say revisions on sheet and revisions. So I'm going to do a control here and say next. And so this is a very popular workflow where I can export out the revisions on sheet, which means that there are, actually, let's look at the properties here. What we're doing is not showing just the last revision, but we're actually showing each sequence and whether that revision exists on that particular sheet or not, right? So we can show multiple items. which is very important because Revit only shows the last sequence or last revision on the sheet. And then we can export this information out to this Excel file, right? And so what I'm just going to do is show you, I'm going to come over here to my directory. And you'll notice that we have this Ideate DIR template, which is an Excel macro-enabled template. I'm going to double-click on that. And you will notice that as I bring that up in Excel, here we have, basically I did this earlier, I exported out this information, right? And you'll notice that it has the sort of tabs, basically which the revisions are in which sequences, and all of the actual sheets. So what it does is it takes the revisions, right? The sequences coming from Bim Link, the revision on sheet information that I showed you earlier in the properties, and then it combines them into this nice matrix style overview. Well, how do you incorporate that into your Revit project? Well, I think this is a great segue for Ideate Sticky. So what I'm going to do over here in the Revit project is come over and just select on a new sheet. And it's just, don't want to cancel that. And so I would come over and select on Sticky that I want to include the information from that Excel file that I just showed you. All right, so I'm going to say create, and the source is going to be that Ideate DIR template. That's that macro-enabled Excel file. And the worksheet is, you notice, I don't want to show revisions because that came directly from Bim Link. The revisions on sheet also came from Bim Link. I want to show the DIR, the document issue record, which is really the summary. And then I can call this anything I want. Right now it says sticky DIR, but I might just call revisions on sheet schedule and say OK. When I do that, and now close, you will see that that information has been brought in. It is a schedule. It is a schedule header, but all the information is now linked. So notice that as I zoom up, you know, I've got this American project, Anytown, USA. Let's come over here and say American project. We're going to call it, because I'm located in Boston, Boston Lab Center. And the town will be Boston, Mass, as something. Just to show you that I did a couple changes. In fact, I could even change this color, this background, let's say, to something. I want to do a little different green or whatever. Now I save the information. And then I come back over here. It doesn't immediately update, but Sticky knows that it is looking at an out-of-date copy. So in fact, it says out of date right here in the status. And there is this little tick mark that says auto update. When that tick mark is turned on, when I open the project, it's going to then check to make sure that it has the latest and greatest information from Excel. When I tick it right now, it's going to go out and do the same and get the latest and greatest. So now we have the Boston Lab Center in Boston, Massachusetts that has been incorporated. So again, this information is linked and it can display very easily as a Revit schedule. But there are times where maybe you don't want the Revit schedule itself. We want Word or PDF. So I'm going to come over here and select on and create. And we have some samples here. So I want to make sure that I go over and get the right samples here. So I'm going to go over to my training directory and come over here to samples. And maybe I want to do the specifications. So I've got this specifications Word document. I'm going to select open. And when I do that, it actually says, okay, this document contains 7 pages. Do you want all 7 pages? Well, for my purposes, I only want pages 1 through 2. And I'm going to say okay. And when I do that, I'm going to say, you know, okay, that's great. Say close, and those now 2 documents are over here. And again, I'm going to bring those down. We'll go ahead and fit this information. And just as the other one, like right now, this says interior architectural woodwork, right? So let's go over to that samples directory. And remember, I said it was the specifications. And so I'm going to bring that up. So here we are, interior architectural woodwork for Boston, Mass. We'll save it. Come back over here to Revit. And again, same procedure. If I had opened that up or I said that I wanted to have it auto update, I'm going to tick those. And automatically that will update to architectural woodwork for Boston, Mass. So it's always giving you the latest and greatest. In the same way, I can show you the PDF. I'll just do one more. I'll say create, and I'll bring over this vent detail. All right, and say okay. And we'll go ahead and close that and bring over. So now this sheet has a combination of information that was linked in as a Revit schedule from Excel, as images from Word, as well as PDF. And it's going to make sure that all of those are kept up to date with that little tick mark that says auto update. So the next time I open up the project, it will go check to make sure that that has the latest and greatest. So, again, as a BIM manager, you can incorporate so many documents that we're kind of calling this non-BIM information, meaning that it's not impacting the model, but still it's important because you need to show, for instance, maybe manufacturing details or specifications. You need to show documents or in the case of specs, or maybe items that just aren't formatted correct, or I shouldn't say formatted correctly, but able to be formatted within a Revit schedule, like this matrix of revisions and revisions on sheets. That's another good example of being able to use Sticky for that kind of data. So far, like I said, we've gone over Id8 Bim Link, working with Excel, Sticky, linking in Excel. Now we're going to come back over to this 3D audit view, and we're going to go to Ideate Explorer. As I mentioned in the opening, Ideate Explorer is a model browser, allowing you to review every single element of your Revit project. So in this case, if I'm auditing this project as a BIM manager, I might want to look at the entire project, right? And I see that quickly that my health check here is kind of like, oh, I've got 36,000 elements. So I can start to see if there's something that's maybe out of place very quickly. If I go over to any component, whatever that is, let's say I'm just going to come down here to curtain panels, operable panels, clear glazing. I've got 44 of these clear glazing panels. I can select them, right? And then I can say, well, you know what? Instead of the clear glazing panel, we just changed that. We updated our project. We're going to change that to a sliding panel instead. So now all 44 have been swapped out to the sliding panel, and they will be updated in the list. And you'll notice over here in the background, you'll see that they have the sliding panels now instead. Another great auditing tool, we're showing you things that the project browser just doesn't show you. Things like Cad Imports, right? So if I come over here and look at the Cad Imports and I come down here to this door details, I see, well, you know what? I'm going to double click this door detail, which happens to be a LinkedIn AutoCAD file or imported AutoCAD file. It's in the door detail view or sheet, which makes sense. But why is there two instances of it? Let's double click on this one. Oh, it tells me it's hidden in the view. So I want to open up the view and turn on Reveal Hidden Elements. And so I realize the view is site plan. And there is the linked file, and I can look at it and I say, okay, well, that obviously is a mistake. That should not be in that site plan view. I can go ahead right here and delete right from the Explorer, and it's going to say, well, do you want to delete the one Cad import? Yes, I do. That way I can have a clean site plan view, and I'm not worried about other items being shown. So let's turn that off, the Reveal Hidden Elements in that view. Let's go ahead and fit that. And you can see now that I have no hidden CAD files in that particular view. And in fact, my CAD imports, you'll notice, that door instance now, there's only one instance of it. So I can review, CAD information. I can review all kinds of items. And I can also look at this not only by category, but by level, by room, by work set. So, work sets, I can say, oh, well, there's, several user-created work sets. So it looks like there's furniture. Oh, you know what? There's doors that are on the furniture work set. So I'm going to select all 41 of those doors, right? And let's change the work set from furniture over here to maybe it's supposed to be on the shell work set or something. So now I'm going to move that, and I realize, quickly that was made. So now if I go to furniture, notice I just have casework and furniture items on that user created work set. So the ability to show this information in other sort of granular ways is so important. And then sort of finally, we've got the ability to explore items, to navigate to sheets and views very easily and quickly. But in the background here, I'm going to close some of these items here. I'm going to go back to that 3D audit view. And we have warnings. And warnings are so important to keep a handle on, basically, and make sure that they're not out of control, because warnings can impact the performance of your Revit model. They can even potentially cause corruption if they're not handled correctly. So in this case, I look at the warnings. I have two elements here that are geometrically problems. Their floors overlap. So if I highlight and double click, it's going to show that to me. You see over here in the right, and there's the other one I can highlight, but it's still kind of hard for me to see. So what I can do is just use the control feature and highlight both of those. And because Ideate Explorer is what we call non-modal, meaning that you can work in any view and do any Revit command, basically, while the dialog is open. So now I can come over here to and isolate those elements. And then I can easily see where the problem is. I go, oh, well, obviously that's where the problem is where they're overlapping, right? So then I can just say edit the boundary, right? And let's bring that boundary back so it's not conflicting there. And let's fix that particular warning so we won't attach that. And now that warning goes away. Then I would say, oh, okay, let's bring back the reset temporary hide isolate. And now I'm looking at my entire model again. So if I zoom to fit, now I've got this auditing view. And in this particular case, there are, the identical instances, okay? Well, I can look at each one of these, like in this case, there are mullions. But with this particular warning, we've enabled the user to be able to say, well, you know what? If they're duplicates, you can retain the originals or retain the latest. Maybe these got duplicated. Again, someone copied them by mistake. So I'm going to retain the originals. And it puts the others into a selection set where I can then delete. There are actually 64 curtain wall mullions, 11 pieces of furniture. Let's go ahead and delete them. Now that I have no longer high ranked warnings, and again, that's completely customizable. What I rank as a red or a high ranked warning, a medium or a low ranked warning, which is green. This icon, alert icon, goes away because there are no high ranked warnings within this project. But there's another alert icon here, which means that I've gone over my threshold of warnings. Well, this one, 96, lines in sketch are slightly off axis. I don't want to count that in my warnings because it's not even that big of a deal to me. So what I want to do here is I want to hide that. And I can get back to that anytime, you'll see in a moment here, but it just means that I'm not using that as a calculation for my warnings. And the same way with the highlighted walls are attached, but maybe they missed the targets. Just for right now, I'm going to hide those as well. So now I'm looking at medium and low ranked warnings. I'm under my threshold, which I've set here. And again, this is completely customizable. I'm allowing 100 warnings per 100 megabyte file, which allows me to have 49 warnings that without getting an alert icon. If I go above 49, I'm going to get that alert. And you can also see where I can have the rankings files. I can have that in a centralized location for everyone in the project team to be able to share. And so if I did want to go back and say, oh, I want to look at that filter of hidden warnings, what did I hide? Well, you can see there, I've got the highlighted walls are attached. The line in sketch is slightly off axis. Or maybe I just want to look at my now medium ranked warnings, tackle those, and then I'll go to the low ranked warnings next and tackle those. So it's a great way for me to understand and manage, either as a user or as a BIM manager, the warnings within the Revit model. So that's Ideate Explorer. And then speaking of auditing, as I mentioned in the intro, Style Manager goes even a step further for understanding all of the uses of these sort of styles. So I'm going to bring up Style Manager. And with Style Manager, like I said, we have these collections, right, of object styles, of line patterns, filled regions, and so forth, and they all work fairly similar. So if I go over here to fill patterns, it's going to show me all the fill patterns that are in my project. And you notice there's a little question mark over here to the left, meaning I haven't analyzed. I haven't asked Ideate Style Manager to tell me where they're used. And you might say, well, what are these colors? Well, these colors allow me to isolate duplicates. So for fill patterns, everything that's red basically has a fill pattern that matches this, this particular style. Now, it doesn't mean that it's okay. There might be, in this case of, you might have, there's vertical, small, very vertical, or very, very small vertical. I mean, maybe that's okay. Maybe you want to clean that up, but it's just highlighting which ones are duplicate. So I'm going to come down over here, and I've got this vertical wood 1, and I've got vertical wood. So to understand where these are used, I can double click to analyze their usage. So the first one is used in a couple of different elements, filled regions. This next one, if I double click, is actually used in some materials as well as families. And so based on that information, I say, well, you know what, this this one here, the vertical wood model pattern, I would like to merge, and I'm going to merge with its duplicate definition here, which is vertical wood 1, and say merge. So what it does is it takes the families and the materials, and it will modify that and move it to the other style. Now, when it comes to families, we're opening up the family within the project, and we're changing that information. So we're not actually writing out the RFA file, the family file itself on disk, but it is changing the family within the project. So now it's no longer a duplicate, right? So it doesn't appear in my list. If I say untick isolate duplicates, and then we look at that vertical, there's vertical wood. Now when I double click, not only does it have the information from, there's actually 6 items because I merged all of them together. So there's 2 families, there's a barn door, there's 2 materials, and there's 2 elements that are using that vertical wood material. Well, and then I realized that's not very descriptive. It doesn't match my standards. So I'm going to rename this, and I'm going to say it's the approved vertical wood. So I can give it a new name. And so I know now that that is the approved vertical wood is in use. And in fact, I can say, well, show me not analyzed. So in that case, I'm just looking at the one I've analyzed so far. And so now it is an approved style. It now has these items. I only have the one of them because I merged them together. And so all of these, like I said, work fairly similar. They have those items. In the case of like object styles and line styles, we even have the added little tick mark here of imported styles, being able to show you if you have, let's say, a partially exploded DWG file. Like in this case, you see this door cabinet DWG. There are some exploded styles here that got included in my project, and I may want to either remove them or actually merge them to the parent here, this DWG file itself. So that's a great way for me to sort of look in and understand where these things are being used. I love the fact, like filters, if I look at this and double click on this fire rated filter, it's being used in a view template called architectural plan. It's also been assigned to multiple views here. Speaking of view templates, if I come over here and look at only those view templates that are in floor plan, there's that architectural plan, and you can see again which views they're being used in. So I can decide whether is that appropriate. Do I have view templates that aren't used? Like in this case, let's just say, oh, these aren't being used, and I decide that I'm not going to be using them. I can remove them, and I'm not impacting the graphics or the deliverables of my drawings because I know that they weren't in use anyway. And so if I delete them, again, I'm not impacting the actual model itself. And so all of these, like I said, you might want to analyze, text and fonts and dimensions and arrowheads. They all have very similar tick marks, allowing you to control and really understand how all of these styles are being used. So that's Ideate Style Manager. And then a couple tools. I'm not going to highlight all of the tools for Ideate apps, but I think some for BIM managers, some really nice tools. How many times as a BIM manager has someone come to you and said, "Hey, I can't find this in my view. For some reason the wall's not displaying, or this toilet fixture isn't displaying." Well, that's why we developed Ideate X-Ray, so that the actual the users of Revit could figure it out very easily and not have to run to the BIM manager to ask questions. So in this case, I'm going to go over here to Ideate Software. I'm going to go to my X-Ray, and I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to search for a small area in the target view because this toilet fixture is not showing up, and I don't know why. So I'm going to say next, and I'm going to say, well, somewhere in here is a toilet fixture. And in fact, it's a plumbing fixture, so I can search for plumbing if I spell it right. And there I can expand this and say, oh, well, there's the actual deluxe toilet itself. And so I'm going to say, tell me why this isn't displaying. I'm having a hard time figuring it out. Well, in fact, there's actually 3 different reasons why it's not displaying. It was hidden by the element, meaning someone did a right-click hide in view. Well, I can fix that. All right, well, it still doesn't display. Oh, because someone hid it by category as well. And if it's actually being applied by a view template, it will tell you that. So I can say, fix that, turn the category on. Still doesn't show. All right, well, the work set's not open. Okay, well, in this case, I can't do quite an easy fix, but if I go to the show me, it actually brings up the work set dialog where it shows that the plumbing fixtures is not opened. And I can say, open that. And then if I come over here and say, yes, okay, you will see, voila, the plumbing fixture now displays. So, this gave me 3 different ways of why it wasn't displaying in this particular view. And so you can go through and, it's like hides by scale. It's out of the view range. There's a discipline mismatch. Like I said, we've actually looked at over 50 different ways an element can be hidden in a view, so it becomes very complicated. So I think Ideate X-Ray is a great tool for all BIM managers to help their staff understand why something doesn't display. And then I wanted to show you some of the sheets and view tools. So I'm going to come over here. I've got, oops, I don't want a new project. I'm going to open up a project. I've got a sheet manager here, project. And I've got this set up, and the reason I'm using this project is that I just have some views, or I should say a lack of views set up, because I'm going to now be using our view creator to create some new views. So you will notice over here, as if I look at my project browser, I have some dependent views. I have this first floor architecture, right, which is the same kind of project that I've been working with, this Audubon Center. But it's been broken up into, with some crop regions, the east wing and the west wing, right? And so I've done some manipulations with crop regions. I say turn the crop off, but yet the crop is displaying those 2 items. I would like to take that information that I created for architecture and apply it to some other plan views. So I can easily do that with my view creator. So I'm going to select on View Creator. It asks me, well, it's reading the rules, again, that we supply, or that you can create your own. I want to apply dependents. And I'm going to select the views that I'm going to apply. And so I'm going to use those dependent views from the first floor plan architecture. And I'm going to use that as a template. And I'm going to say, you know what, I would like to apply it to mechanical, plumbing, structure, maybe the finished plan, and just for fun, I'm going to apply it to architecture. And you might say, well, Richard, why are you choosing architecture? Because there's already an east and a west. And I'm doing that to show you our, again, our checking of values and, the feedback that we're giving you. So when I say next, it's going to go ahead and create and preview those view names for me. Again, giving you, so much information about what it's going to do before it actually does it, which is really great. And so it looks, again, I want to say create those 10 views. I'm clicking there, it's grayed out. It won't allow me to. It's so intelligent. It's basically saying you can't create this because you already have these 2. And so I'm not going to allow you to create any of them. So what I'm going to do is take this and I'm going to delete those 2. Now I have the ability to create those 8 views. And you'll see that it's assigned, the same east-west information because that rule is a dependent rule. So I'm going to go ahead and create those 8 views and say done. And over in the project browser, you will notice now that the mechanical and the plumbing, and if I go over to mechanical east and mechanical west, the same crop regions are set. The crop region is not displaying because that was another property that I specified. So it's keeping the exact same information from these dependent views into architecture, but now applying them to mechanical. So you can create all kinds of new views. And then when we might want to use those new views, I'm going to go over to Sheet Manager. This is sort of like our centralized traffic cop, if you will, of view manipulation and sheet manipulation. So I have a series at the bottom here, a bunch of Z sheets. In fact, what I'd like to do is go ahead and create a new sheet. I can do it right here from the dialog. And that sheet gets created as the next in the list, but then I realize that, I didn't really want that, right? I want to rename that. And so just to show you that you can, search and replace things very easily, I'm going to say, search for the 8, the character 8, and replace it with a 1. I mean, this is pretty simple. It's just the one sheet, but you can do that for multiple ones, obviously. And this is going to be called coordination. So we'll call this the coordination sheet. And what I'd like to do is the floor plan that I just created. Remember, I created a dependent view called coordination. Actually, I forgot to do the coordination. Oh, that's great. So, what we'll do is we'll do finish plan. And so I'll do finish plan west, and I'll drag it over to coordination. So you can use one of the new views that I created and basically assign it to that sheet. And once that gets assigned here, that gets selected, and I'm going to bring back my sheet manager there. And then we're going to come over here down to my coordination view. And I'm going to say, well, you know what? I actually want a schedule too. Maybe I want a door hardware schedule. I'm going to drag and drop that over to Z.1. And then under the finishes plan, or the finishes sheet, I should say, Z.7, there is this elevation, this signage elevation. I really like that, and I think it should be on the other sheet instead. So I'm going to take this signage elevation, and I'm going to click, drag, and drop it using these tools over to coordination. And because Revit only allows one viewport or one view on a sheet, it removes it from the Z.7 and places it over on Z.1 coordination. And so again, I can double click to open that up. And I can say, all right, well, now I want to start arranging these items or these viewports on the sheet. So we'll come over here, we'll select the schedule. I'll bring that down to the lower left, and we'll bring this sheet down as well, or I should say this elevation. Now, I've got this wonderful sheet I used Sheet Manager to create. I would like to go to my project browser over here, come down to we're on Z.1 coordination, and right click and duplicate it. Well, it's just not available in Revit. So we're giving you the tools to be able to do that with coordination here and be able to clone the sheet. So in this case, I might want to clone it from coordination to structural. And we're going to swap the viewports. So I'm going to set for first floor plan west, I want it to be structural west. And for the elevation, I want it to be a building elevation instead. So we've got structural elevation west for structure. And then schedules can appear on multiple sheets. So I could actually duplicate that door hardware schedule, but that doesn't make sense on a structural sheet. So I'm going to bring over a sticky that was brought in by Sticky as a minimum compression strength schedule. So basically I say, you know what, take the sheet, duplicate it with the title block, swap these viewports. I can actually copy the viewports as well, but in this case, I'm just going to swap them and clone the sheet. So when I do that, that is cloning or copying the information. And I'm going to select here And a second after that's completed, still, okay, there we are, done. So now I have Z.1 coordination, right? There was my original sheet, and Z.2 structural. The plans are perfectly aligned. The elevation, or I'm sorry, the elevation is aligned based on the upper left crop region. The same way with the schedule is aligned based on the upper left crop region. Another thing that you can do really nicely is if I go over here to the, let's say my coordination, or actually even my finishes, I realize that there's this legend, and I would like to have it appear as well. I can just say, copy legends and schedules, come over here to my structure, and then say paste the legends and schedules. And then on the upper right-hand corner here, you're going to see that that appears. And again, this is a non-dialogue or non-modal dialogue, meaning that I can work in any Revit view or any Revit command while I have the sheet manager or the view creator or the clone open and active. So as a BIM manager, it allows me to really contextually create the sheets and views that I need for my particular project. Well, I know we're a couple minutes into 60 minutes. So what I'd like to do here is, I just don't have the time to show you everything. I'm going to switch back over to my PowerPoint. And I want to see if there are any questions, and also remind you again that once we exit this webinar, that please fill out that survey, and we will, and that really helps us, like I said, tailor these presentations in the future. So I'm going to open up the floor to Sash. And do we have a couple quick burning questions that I can answer?
Hey, Richard, great job. Yeah, we had a lot of questions. You guys kept me really busy, so thank you for that. I would say there's two things that we should probably talk about just in the interest of time. I've answered every question that people have thrown at me, but can you briefly just talk to the audience about how sticky licensing works and how auto update works?
That is a great question. Okay, so all of our, and I'll step back a little bit, all of our tools will automatically, like when I start Bim Link, I'm using a license right now. So as long as the dialog is open, I am using a license. When I close Ideate Bim Link, that license is automatically checked back in for another person to use it, anywhere if you've got a network license, whether it's Cloud Network or FlexLM. The only difference is Ideate Sticky, which works a little bit different because Ideate Sticky will, when the dialog is open, it checks out a license. But if the auto update is turned on, the license will be held as long as there is a sticky within that project. So in this case, if I tick this auto update and I say close, and now I open up this project, a license of sticky is being consumed because it has to have that license active for being the auto update. So that is a little bit different than our other tools. And that's always something to remember, is that when auto update is ticked, it means that you are consuming a network license of Ideate Sticky. Does that help explain it, Sash?
Yep, absolutely. The other one that we should, if you want to go back to Revit real quickly, the other one is, and this actually came up a couple of times in this chat, but in Explorer, when you're, let's say, selecting elements to do maybe a work set change, there are times where moving elements to a different work set is not possible because it grays out. And a lot of the chances, or it could very well be that those elements, or some of the elements that are selected, are in groups, or they're nested elements. And I just want to point out to everybody, in a situation like that, chances are you just can't get into a swap out of a work set of elements that are inside of a group, and that's because Revit restricts group access quite a bit, even to developers. And so in this case, like what Richard's doing is he's looking for the group name. And so, in this case, this says the group's not applicable. And if you even scroll down further, you can look at.
I was thinking that. I thought I did have a model group with walls, but maybe I don't.
No, yeah, so there's, group name, but, it could be some furniture of yours. Maybe if you want to go back and select some furniture, Richard. chances are maybe some furniture is within a group or
Yeah.
an array. And so the workflow here is to select those all the elements that you want to move over to the new work set as an example. Yeah, do furniture and systems maybe.
Well, I'll just do furniture. I think that'll be the good. And then I'm going to specify, as you see it with our Ideate query, which I didn't talk too much about, is I can look at group and look at the group, right? And identify if there are pieces of furniture. In fact, there are 30 that are part of this, banquette table that I could identify and say, all right, now I want to select those and either ungroup them or maybe not. Like if I do the reverse, now I'm selecting ones that aren't part of a group, right? I selected all 397. I can then modify, let's say, the properties of those much easier. Like let's say I just wanted to update the mark property or something. I could do that on all 397 because they're not part of the group.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And maybe that's a sort of a bad example because sometimes, depending upon the property, there is that property that you can create that says varies by the group instance. So some are able to be changed and some aren't, depending upon the group. But this is a way for you to isolate that information with using Ideate Query so that you can make those manipulations or changes. Well, thank you so much, Sash. I know it's just, Sash and I, the hardest things that we have is to try to fit this information into 60 minutes. There's just so many good workflows for BIM managers. It's impossible to show them all. So hopefully what we've done is really whetted your appetite and given you some reasons to maybe research and look at some of our tools and solutions. And with that being said, our website is a great tool for you to look at, under the support, the video library. You can see that there are many different videos that are organized by the product, but we also have our online help. So for instance, if I wanted to go to Ideate Sticky help files, right, I can select on that and you can see that there's all kinds of topics like how to manage the size, how to work with pivot tables, how to import Revit images into Excel. So we do a great job of both our online help and our online videos. So I'd encourage you to review that information as well. And with that, so go to ideatesoftware.com. Thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it. Thank you, Sash, for answering questions so well. And we hope if you're not an Ideate Software customer that you go to our website, you can download a trial version of all 5 of our Ideate Software applications for use and review, and that's a great way to get started, is to trial the software to see if it works for what your particular needs are. So with that, thank you so much. Again, my name is Richard Taylor, and I appreciate you spending some time with me today. And please fill out the survey. Thank you.